So today I'm going to make some kimchinis, which is essentially an arancini flavoured with kimchi. Okay, to start making the arancini, we've got to make some stock. So I've just had some kombu sitting in some cold water for 30 minutes, and then I put it on the stove and it just brought it up to a bare boil. And now I'm going to remove the kombu, and then I'm going to start adding my other ingredients. So the first thing I'm going to do is just give this a quick taste. Let's see where it's at the moment. So my first ingredient I'm going to add is some miso. Now everything in this stock is going to be to taste. For me, I'm going to start off with a good heaping teaspoon of miso. I'm going to go ahead and get that all mixed in and nicely dissolved. Because I brought this up to a boil, the water, it is still quite warm, so it should have no problem in dissolving all that miso in. Okay, once your miso is all dissolved, go ahead and give it another taste. Okay, now I'm going to add some fish sauce. Start off with a tablespoon. And we're going to put in some black vinegar. We'll start off with about half a tablespoon of that. Okay, then we'll go ahead and give that a taste. I'm going to give it another half tablespoon of vinegar and teaspoon of miso. Okay, once that miso is all dissolved in, we'll give it another taste. And for me, that's just about perfect. So we're going to put this back on the stove on a super low heat just to keep it nice and warm. Okay, once your butter's just about melted, we're going to add a finely diced brown onion. Now you could use shallots, but I had a brown onion kicking around there, so I chopped that up. I'm going to use that. So we're just going to stir this in, and we want to keep this on like a medium to medium low heat. We don't want any browning on this onion. We just want to get it nice and soft. It also helps if you put a super fine cut on it, and that'll help it soften up a lot quicker, and also it'll help it incorporate into the risotto. In the end, a lot better. You don't want any big chunks of onion in there. Okay, once your onion's nice and soft, you're going to add some garlic. You just want to stir the garlic around for about 30 to 40 seconds, just until it starts smelling nice and fragrant. And then we're going to get the rice in there. Alright, once you can smell that garlic cooking away there, we're going to get the rice, we're going to add it straight into the pot. Now we're going to get that all mixed in with the onion and the garlic and the butter and oil. And we're going to toast this rice off just for a little bit. At this point, I like to just put the heat up to about a medium high, just to get the heat back in the pan, because especially with my stove, as soon as you add a bunch of stuff like this, the heat just gets taken straight out of it. So once you got it all stirred in and all the rice is coated in the fat, we'll just let it sit for a minute or so, and then we'll come back and give it a stir. And we'll do this for the next few minutes just to, as I said, just to toast the rice off a little bit. Spent the last few minutes just toasting the rice off. Now we're going to start to add the stock. Now I've got my heat back down to medium, and we're just going to start adding the stock, one ladle full at a time. So we're going to add a ladle in, and we're just going to mix this in. And once all the liquid's dissolved, we're going to add another one. Now there's a million different ways to cook risotto out there, which is exactly what we're doing here. We're just using some Asian flavors. So some people say you can add all the stock and not stir it. Some people say you have to stir it. I'm more on the boat that I like to stand here and stir the rice because I find it quite therapeutic. But if you go over to Adam Ragusi's channel, he did a whole deep dive into stirring the risotto or not. I'm going to stand here and keep ladling in my stock and stirring it, and then we'll come back once the stock's all gone. Okay, I used up all the stock. Now I just boiled the kettle and I poured the hot water into the pot. I'm going to keep that on that low heat. I'm just going to keep adding one ladleful at a time until the rice is cooked through. So the risotto is nicely cooked through. I would err on the side of overcooking just a little bit if you're making it just for arancini. This is just a tiny bit overcooked, and I find that helps bind it together a bit better. Also, I'm going to be adding just 50 grams of grated grana padano, and this is going to help it bind together even more when we roll them into the balls tomorrow. So we're just going to go ahead and get that all mixed in. Then once that's all mixed in, we're going to taste for seasoning. So for seasoning, we're going to add half a teaspoon MSG and a teaspoon of salt. So we'll get that mixed in, and then we'll adjust as needed. Okay, we're going to add another teaspoon of salt. And once that's mixed in, we'll jump on to the next step. So I've got my kimchi, my little mini food processor here. Just going to bang the lid on. I'm going to process this down to a nice smooth consistency. Okay, so I'm going to give it the customary scrape. Okay, when it's looking a little something like that, we'll add it to the pot. So I did remove some of this mixture. Not everyone in this household likes kimchi, so I just set some of it aside. Okay, once you got it all in there, we're just going to mix it through. Okay, for me, I want a little bit more of a kick in there, so I'm going to add, what's that, about 3/4 of a tablespoon of gochujang. So we'll go ahead and get it all mixed in, and then we'll give it one last taste for seasoning. Okay, once you got it all mixed in, and you're happy with the seasoning, we're just gonna go ahead and let this cool, and then we're gonna set it in the fridge overnight. So I've just had them in these containers, chilling out in my fridge. And now I'm just gonna put it all into this bowl here, because I actually forgot to add one ingredient just after I made it, which is some nori sheets that I just, I've cut up into little strips. So I'll get all this into the bowl and we'll get the nori in there and then we'll mix it all together. As you can see, I've already gone ahead and, boiled most of it up, but you gotta keep a bowl of water, keep wet hands, and that'll help it, all the rice sticking to your hands too much. And I've gone along and I've got a scale here, and I'm just weighing them out roughly anywhere between 100 and 110. Anywhere in there is gonna be good. So you just get it in your hand, you flatten it out a little bit, and I've got some fresh mozzarella here. You could use any good melted cheese you want or even some dry mozzarella, but the fresh stuff is actually a lot easier to get my hands on here in Austria. So I just put that in the middle, I just roll it around in my hand, just like that. Make sure it's all sealed up, and I'll put it in a dish. And in my dish, I've just lined it with some breadcrumbs, and that helps the bowls to stop sticking to the bottom of the pan until I move on to the next step, which is breading. So I'll just go ahead and get these other few knocked out, and then we'll come back. I got my usual setup for breading stuff. Got some flour, I got some beaten eggs. I actually put quite a bit of water in and then give them a real good mix. And it just makes for a thinner wet dredge, so it coats the whatever you're breading a lot better. And also panko. I'm also using the old wet hand, dry hand technique because, otherwise your fingers get all clumped up with the breading and the flour, and it just makes a hell of a mess. If you do use two hands like this, it just makes it much, much easier. So from the flour, and into the egg, and then I like to make a little bit of a divot in my breadcrumbs. So when I shake off all the excess of the egg, straight in, and then you can already start throwing around the edges on top, and then your hand stays, relatively clean without getting too wet and clumped up with breadcrumb. I also come to realize after I started portioning these out that I have made quite a few. This is actually another tray. I've got another whole tray back there filled up. So I'm gonna get a crack on and get all these breaded up, and then we'll start frying. Because I've made so many arancini, it's actually not a bad thing, because at this stage, as they're just got the breading on, if you freeze them like that, and then just once they're frozen, you put them in a Ziploc bag or something, then you essentially have arancini on demand. You just have to take them out, let them thaw overnight in the fridge, and then you just gotta fry them up like normal. So I got my fryer set up. The temperature's around 170 degrees. I'm just gonna put my arancini straight in. So we'll put them in, and then we'll set the timer for around 8 minutes, and then we'll give it a check. So the arancinis have been in there for 10 minutes total, and they're nicely golden brown. And now we're just gonna simply remove them into a bowl, line with some paper towel, to drain for a few minutes, and then they'll be ready to tuck in. Best enjoyed, nice and hot. So I ain't gonna lie, I've let these cool down for quite a while because I don't want to burn my mouth. So here we go. Still plenty warm in the middle. Nice little cheese pull there. I've never had anything quite like this before. The nori is coming through quite a lot. If I was to do this again, I would add more kimchi, and I would add it while I was cooking the risotto to let the moisture kind of go away from the kimchi so it has more of a kimchi bite. But this is still pretty damn good.